It's one of the best words in the English language, penultimate. And the penultimate round has finished, and we are finally heading into the final round of the season. As I welcome in our co-host, Damon Lowry. First off, you are a man who deals in ultra marathons, things of distance. Does this season feel like it has been an ultra marathon, or maybe just one of the regular, normal marathons?
Life in NBL, it moves pretty fast. If you don't stop and take a look, you could miss it.
Okay. I knew we were going to get something profound from Damon there. It's fantastic. Pete, what do you think?
I'm very impressed you got that word out off the top. I was very nervous reading that myself. I'm just excited for the finals. It feels like Hoops Fest was an eternity ago. There's been so many games right back to round one, and we look like there's 6 teams in the race now to win it all.
That's, well, seeing as it's a top 6, there probably is 6 teams in the race to win it all. And also for those playing at home, I will be mostly speaking to Damon tonight because Peter Hooley made comments about my hairline previous to the show, and we're not on speaking terms anymore. So as we continue, Damon, the top 6 as we look at the Mitsubishi Motors standings looks to be set.
Oh, the 6 is set. The 6 has been set for quite a while, in my opinion. I didn't think the Jackies, I think on the show last week or the week before, I said the Jackies won't win another game just because, you know, they run out of bodies. But they almost proved me wrong because they had Melbourne United. I thought that game was theirs. But now the 6 is set as far as the participants. But where all those participants finalize, that's still up in the air.
Yeah, I think we all thought it was going to be these top 6, which is what I meant. I'm happy with you to keep throwing to David. The more you turn that way on camera, the better it is for my argument at the start.
It is one side's worse than the other, but the Adelaide 36ers, now they're going to finish in 6th, but they are trying their hardest to fall out of the 6th. I'm not sure whether they got flights booked, Kendrick, Montrez, are they going back to the States? They want out of here as quick as possible, but just unfortunately, the teams around them are injured and they are going to fall into the 6th because they are playing some rough basketball over the last couple of games. 0 for 2 this weekend.
This game was just simply not good enough. And we've all experienced the Adelaide Entertainment Centre this year, how the crowd gets behind it. It was, for 98% of the game, you could hear a pin drop. For a game that was going to lock you into the 6, as we said, they're going to fall in there anyway, unless they have a catastrophe this weekend. But for them to come out against an undermanned Brisbane team, and we'll give Brisbane their props later on in the show because they deserve it. But the way they played for a team that we sat here last week saying, you don't want to play them the way they were playing. The way they had everything clicking, the mental side of it, they looked like they had unlocked. Again, after some more controversy, they look like a team that are all bought in. That game right there, and this is my fear for Adelaide, that can linger for them. And it did in their other game for the weekend. They had a very good quarter, but that's my biggest fear. And that just wasn't good enough for a team that has aspirations to go really deep in the finals.
I never thought that they was the danger team. I wasn't on that train that you was on about you don't want to play Adelaide. I'm thinking if you want to play anybody, it's them because they are that inconsistent. Now, I don't want this to sound too harsh. This team, this Adelaide 36ers team, is not a mature team. I'm not saying they're children. What I'm saying is they don't play consistently enough with the required maturity to really threaten for a championship. Like they lay down, I don't know what that was against Brisbane. Like you just said, that's a few teams have had hiccups like that. Illawarra did the same thing against Cairns. So, okay, you take that one. But through the course of the year, how can you trust a team that can fluctuate? The highs and the lows are just so violent. So I'm saying right now that team doesn't have a level of maturity that would threaten any of the other 5 teams.
But when you say that, you say they have these violent highs and violent lows. I think the threat is that they hit one of those violent highs in a playing game. Now, are they going to compete for a championship? You'd be shocked because, as you said, they're going to hit a violent low at some point during that. But is there an element of fear there that they could hit one of those violent highs?
No, because it's not sustainable. It doesn't last. Okay, for a quarter, you go, oh, my God, they're unbelievable. Like that third quarter they had against Southeast Melbourne. Oh, my, and then fourth quarter. Or the 3 of the other 4 quarters. So, yeah, for one quarter, for 10 minutes, you go like this, wow, that's a really good team. But for the most part,
we spoke to Mike Wells before that Brisbane game, and we've asked him a couple of other times, and he's been great at giving us his time when a lot of things have been going on behind the scenes about how do you bottle up this, whatever the crisis meeting, whatever, everybody coming together, realising defensively we're better. The way they played in Sydney, the way they looked like they'd galvanised things defensively. And he said that he hopes that it's all there because they've shown in the 2 games prior to that how good they can be, that violent high. They were one of those teams where if they play that way, if they lock in that way, yes, it's true, they can beat anybody. But the problem is, it seems like a roll of the dice as to which way that's going to fall every single game.
You mentioned maturity, which I think describing the Adelaide 36ers as an immature team is perfect. And we saw that on display on social media as well. Kendrick Davis, one of the brightest stars in this league, but he's 25. He's very quick into his pro career here. If this was my last game in Adelaide tonight, I just want to say thank you to the unbelievable fans and amazing city for embracing me as their own. Forever hold a place in my heart. Thank you. That is a post that you post when your season is done and you are never returning. Adelaide 36ers, unless they have an arena that there's unable to be booked out somewhere, maybe Kylie Minogue's making a tour through Adelaide, he's going to be back there. I just find that a very, very strange thing to post. And if I'm a supporter, I'm saying, hey, what's going on here? And
that's a microcosm of their season. This is their guy. This guy is so talented, but he's only a 2-year pro. Like, he doesn't know how, like, some things you have to learn. You have to bump your head and learn some things, right? He don't need to learn how to run a pick and roll, how to beat somebody one-on-one. That is a gift. This dude is that talented. But when it comes to doing things like that, leadership, the intangibles, how to get guys all on the same page, he don't know how to do that. He has not shown us that. And nobody on that team, with the exception of Jason Kadee and Sunday Detch, have showed us that they can be consistent, Pete. Like you say, Mike Willis goes, yeah, but if we could do this all the time, well, guess what? If it was the fifth, we'd all be drunk. That's what Mom used to say. So I don't want to hear it, you know what I mean? It's not built on anything solid. It's just built on sand. It's only a matter of time.
And those that only had a tweet as well saying, thank you, Adelaide. To me, it's annoying for the team because that became a distraction afterwards, didn't it? Everybody online was talking about it. All the fans are like, hang on, there's been reports about you, potentially signing an extension, which is probably where I feel it came in as you're playing the game. You've got to play the business side of it too, so I understand why, but that is normally reserved for the end of the season. This team, we sat here last week saying that if they do find that violent high, they play that way defensively. Can they run the table? I sat here, I still believe if they locked in for those 2 weeks like they had it, and they did that for 4 weeks, they can beat anyone and they could go on a deep run. To do that meant you'd be playing more games at the entertainment centre. So it was just the timing of it. It was strange. But, yeah, it's hard to really know what you're going to get. They've got a big test this weekend against Perth, and they're going to fall in unless they really, really fall apart and Tassie decides, you know what, let's just have a big swing against Cairns and get in.
Well, if the Adelaide 36ers are playing this circus roadshow off-court, on-court, then the Perth Wildcats are just doing their job at the moment. 2 massive wins, and I've said it all year, but the UV rays on John Rillie Island right now are unsafe to the point where a pale-skinned man like me should not be taking residence. But I'm so committed to the cause that I will be, and I think it's only going to get sunnier from now.
I've always been high on the Perth Wildcats.
Oh, give me a spell.
I've gone right back to they were my pre-season prediction. We sat here.
Can we clip up by the end of this show someone saying, you with callbacks, I've always been high on him. I think you've had 7 players for the MVP this year, Pete.
I mean, after the round 1, yeah, the changes. When you ask me what it is, I'm going to tell you my thoughts.
Continue.
I've been high on what they can achieve because when everybody's healthy, and you didn't like it, David, when I said, was it last week? I don't want to hear about no Dylan Windler. He does matter to this team. Ty Webster looked good off the bench. I think Christian Doolittle, whatever happened since coming back from injury, he looks like an offensive weapon right now. They've got these pieces. It's interesting you talk about John Rillie. The substitutions, the patterns changed this late in the season where the youngsters aren't getting as much burn. Aquera was starting for a while. They put Pinder back in the starting lineup. So he's shifting things up a little bit. It's interesting to see how that all plays out.
It's almost like a good coach, Damon, is good coaching at the late end of the season, shortening the rotation as always should be. It's not an equal opportunity offense when you get to this point of the year.
See, we go from talking about the immature team to the mature team. The Perth Wildcats play mature basketball. They got cool, calm, level-headed dudes. They don't get rattled by just the random, the wind blows this way, then they act like this. You can count on these guys. They got the scoring hierarchy, which you spoke about heaps. And yes, the bench is a little shorter. We don't see a whole lot of Hiram Harris no more. Don't see a whole lot of David Aquera. But Johnny really has already built confidence into those guys previous to that. They're all ready to go.
We're going to talk MVPs and all the awards a little later on. But with the 2 wins this weekend and 2 good games from Bryce and, of course, Kendrick and Adelaide just going down a little, has he locked himself in as the MVP?
With all due respect to Kendrick Davis, who's had one of the best individual seasons statistically we've seen in some time, the race is over. What Bryce Cotton did once again, this game he was unbelievable. He put the team on his back, but the fourth quarter, the late charge, the second half against the Phoenix as well. This is what Bryce Cotton does. This is what greatness does. And it's going to potentially, I think it's going to go down as one of the biggest historical not winning MVP seasons from Kendrick Davis. The numbers he's put up, we haven't seen that for a very long time. It's just unfortunate that he's been doing it in a year that Bryce Cotton continues to level up. This is what greatness does. I know big Kendrick fan. We all are. But I think Bryce Cotton just put a little bit more distance on it.
I flipped. Things move fast in this league. I flipped. Kendrick Davis, your team is 13-15. You're 2 games under 500. MVP cannot be in a team that can't even get to 50%. Sorry. And Bryce, like you say, he's brilliant. The dominance he's displaying right now. Played 40 minutes on the road and just gave him work. Ain't nothing else to say. This man is the MVP. Once again, congratulations.
There is only one thing that can take this award away from Bryce Cotton.
Nothing.
And I said one thing, Peter. That is recency bias. Recency bias. If Kendrick Davis, they're playing the Wildcats in the final round, if he comes out and has, now the number is crazy. The number would have to be 50, 60, something like that. If he comes out and beats the Wildcats with 50 points, maybe even 30, 12 and 12, I don't know, then recency bias could play a part. I think Bryce is the MVP, but I do not trust government, democracy, any sort of vote system. I don't trust it at all, and I certainly don't trust it with captains and coaches.
I think the only way that could potentially be swung the other way is if the shiny new toy is what gets everybody excited. The coaches, captains, where they get bored of Bryce Cotton's greatness, saying, you know what, it's kind of cool to have someone come in and compete against the greatest we've seen in some time. So that's the only way. I don't think it'll happen. I'm with you. I'm ready to say congratulations now. He's a 5-time MVP winner. He has to win it.
If the third-place team guy loses to the sixth-place team guy, and the sixth-place team guy not even at 500, even if they do win, then what does that say about the basketball society? Don't you guys value winning? Don't you value what it means to be a good, actual win-producing team? Come on, man. I hope it don't go that way. And obviously, Kendrick Davis, he gets his props for having a great individual season.
Well, I hope the basketball people value winning, and we might see when we get to all NBL teams later just how much you value winning. I haven't seen what your list is, but I want to make sure it's going that way. Now, Mark Arena has been on the radio, on the airwaves during the week. A debacle, a schmozzle, bamboozled, they claim. Mark Arena via the West Australian. We're an anchor tenant at RAC Arena and are having to play at a subpar venue as a result. I'm really frustrated with RAC Arena given they have booked such a big period of time during our final series. They should not have booked this period of time for a booking anywhere else during this final series. Now, the issue is they're being forced to play in Challenge Stadium because, God bless her soul, one of the best performers of our generation, Kylie Minogue, has a concert booked. Now, the Kylie Minogue concert's been booked for a long time. Are we looking at the Perth Wildcats saying you should have had that space booked out or at least reserved? Or is RAC Arena at fault here? Now, who do you trust throughout this? We haven't really heard a statement from RAC Arena. Mark Arena, it's as confusing with double arena here. But Mark Arena has been very outspoken saying that this is a blight on RAC and they have caused this issue.
I don't know what to tell you. Mark, it's not your arena. Build your own arena. I don't know what to tell you, man. Like, it ain't no excuses. If you got to play out of Challenge Stadium, it won't be the first time there's been a game in Challenge Stadium. Yes, you're not going to be able to get as many people in there. Guess what? What do you want to do, man? Like, what's the alternative? Just sit up here and moan and groan on? I ain't got time for the moaning and groaning, man. Just worry about being happy that you're going to be a Final Four team, possibly a top 2 team.
There's always obstacles you face with this when you don't own the arenas and trying to get bookings and doing all of this. I think the point of it, 5,500, whatever it holds at Challenge Stadium, and adding this to it, the Red Army that do get to go, could you imagine the atmosphere that's going to be there for whether they finish 3rd or 5th? If they finish 4th, they might be able to avoid all this together. It's just an unfortunate situation because you know it'll be 13,000+ at RAC Arena, the Red Army, the way they've been playing, the way the Wildcats. So it sucks, obviously, but I'm with you. Now we cross that. Let's just move on and say, how do we just make this best situation possible? And let's just get it done. If it's HBF Stadium, let's sell it out. Let's cause some chaos. Let's get some wins.
But you're forgetting about the drama behind the scenes. Who is at fault here, Pete? We know you got your ear to the ground with everything. Have you made contact with the stadium at all?
No, stadiums don't talk normally. They're just buildings. But no, because we understand again when you don't own the stadium, you've got to potentially pencil in certain dates. So you could see, and a lot of people online talking about it to management. It's hard to do when you don't even know where you're going to turn up. You don't even know where you're going to finish. You don't know when the playing games can fall with other things. It's so hard to do for us. And as I said, right now, let's focus on whatever it is. We're just going to play. We're going to win. Let's try and win a title.
And for the people online blaming Kylie Minogue for this, stop. get in the bin. This is in no way. They're booking a concert. They're booking the available venue. This is in no way Frontier Touring or Kylie Minogue. If it is RAC Arena, it's disappointing if they have sort of just gone ahead of the Perth Wildcats and booked that. But I guess this is one of those stories we will never probably know the actual truth of what went on. But Challenge Stadium, 4,500 of those rabid West Australians. That's a home court advantage. I don't care where you're playing. That is a home court advantage for sure. The Sydney Kings. Now, they are not the feared team that we thought they were going to be at the start of the year. We can finally say that with 1 week left, especially when they come up against top 6 teams. They are 5-11 on the year. And unfortunately for the Kings, the last time I checked, when you play in the finals, you have to play a top 6 team. Am I correct in that, Pete?
It's a concern. It's a really big concern because I've sat here, I've been really positive thinking we've seen the glimpses. I know, Damon, when you speak, you're going to say that you haven't seen it put it all together, which you're right. But the best part of Sydney, with Jalen Adams, that Phoenix win in particular, the State Basketball Centre, led by Jalen Adams, Xavier Cooks was great, Kuwait Noy, Cam Oliver. I just still have faith that if they flick that switch, much like Adelaide, they're going to be a problem. But now they've put themselves in a hole where it looks like whatever results fall their way, if they have to face Adelaide, where they have struggled to play against the way the Adelaide 36ers throw the ball inside, they've been undersized all season, do or die elimination game, I'm worried about what that could be.
I've never crowned the Sydney Kings. When everybody was all gassed up in the preseason, when they looked at that roster, straight away I said too small. Too many guys in similar positions on the perimeter. It's all predicated on Jalen Adams. Jalen Adams don't have a good game. Now, we didn't expect him to have a 1-point game and foul out. We didn't expect that. But the way that team is constructed, the way they operate offensively, Jalen has to dominate. They can't win any other way. Cam Oliver made a beautiful cameo appearance. 20 and 12 or 11, whatever that was, and not even 30 minutes of playing time. Xavier Cooks is going to do his little bit. But I'm looking at guys like Bulquar, Isaiah Liafa. Tui had a great game, but it's all built around Jalen Adams. So you shut Jalen Adams down, they don't win. I don't see how it happens. And you're going to get smashed on the glass probably 7 times out of 10.
Well, the Kings have done a fantastic job of filling out Kudos Bank Arena. There's been a couple of, I believe, almost record crowds as it goes on, but they just haven't really been able to roll and take advantage of that while they've been there. You look at this, the Kings at home and their record this season against these teams. There's a lot of 0-1s, 0-2s. You know, against the top teams there, they are struggling to get the wins even when they're at home. And it looks like, if the ladder stays as it is, they're going to be playing the Adelaide 36ers at Kudos Bank Arena. And it doesn't matter how many people are in there, they're still struggling.
And it's tough because you actually look at some of those games against Tassie and the Phoenix where they weren't the best in those games. They probably should have lost. They did lucky and a good enough job down the stretch to get out of that and get very lucky. But all this sets up for our great friend, Derek Rucker.
Oh, no.
What did he say in the preseason? That if they don't make a championship series, he's going to walk from Brisbane to Perth. He'd be starting to get a little nervous, wouldn't he?
I reckon he has absolutely no intention of ever doing that.
It's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen.
But we will hold him accountable to something. He'll
go missing before he goes walking.
There will be some sort of punishment. If you're going to come out with a big statement, some punishment's got to fit that.
There will be, yeah. I'm trying to think of something. My punishments are often way too severe and potentially illegal. So, Damon, can you think of anything that could hit with Derek with?
Now, we're just going to look at him with the gas face like, nah, man.
I don't think that's stern enough. I think he can deal with being looked at with the gas face. But let's jump into it. Ain't no cupcake league and see what's pricked our ears around the league. Now, social media across the broadcast space is starting to sort of tick on a bit. Our man, Jack Heverin, he throws out the best caller in footy and the best caller in basketball, in my opinion. He put this photo up on social media. Now, look, I think when you put up a photo, you always think, how do I look in the photo? No, he looks fine. But you don't do the goat dirty and just throw him up. He looks like he's halfway through the bloody national anthem. What is going on there, Jack?
Like he's playing an
just do him dirty.
Trumpet.
He's playing something. Now, Jack's playing him.
It's. I thought you were going down a Hyde path there. I
was, but then I'm like, no, I love Jack too much. There's no way I'd go there.
Now, Dave, I love podcasts. I'm a big podcast guy. I sit there, I listen to it. So I'm just searching. What do I want to listen to? I want to spark things up, and then this caught my eye. We're talking about social. So I don't know if you're familiar with the 200 plus podcast, Damon, but it's for people who are over 200 centimetres tall on it. Have a look at this imposter at 196 jumping onto a podcast.
Okay, well, if you're going
right to be on.
If you're going to the NBL store to find my height, then probably it's not going to be legitimate.
It's for people over 200 centimetres.
We already got Derek lying
Can we get that graphic back up for a moment? You've gone to get my height at the NBL store. What on earth is that? Why am I listed on the store, Peter?
people actually thought about getting your jersey. But actually, see at the bottom there, see this blurred vision? That was your stats that our producer wanted to keep out.
But
so you're very happy.
But did we see February 10th? That's the key date.
That is true.
Key
Super
date
Bowl
coming up.
Super Bowl licks, birthday, it's all happening.
Yeah, so look, obviously our man over there in New Zealand, he loves to dress up. Alex McNaught, we've seen him dress up like superheroes.
How good was
Have
this?
you seen him do the mini-me Felix impersonation? Rose in hand. The Bachelor.
He's done a fantastic job.
Hey, look, I don't know Alex's marital status, but if you're using Felix for a guide, for a mentor, I'll look elsewhere.
Let me call my therapist real quick after getting a bit of PTSD from seeing that again. But McNaught, credit to Alex McNaught, because, he doesn't play a huge amount of minutes. And to have the confidence to come in, week out, he dresses up as Batman, superheroes. Myself, I'm not going to include myself into that category right there, but he's done a fantastic job brightening up what has been a dark season for New Zealand.
So you must be his idol.
I don't think so.
Well, you said didn't play many minutes. I know he's got a lot longer in his career, but I thought that was your segue for that. Sorry.
I'm going to go at your hair, and we're going to do it afterwards. We'll be back right after the break. Well, it was an up and down weekend for the Southeast Melbourne Phoenix. We'll focus on the down to begin with, the close loss to the Perth Wildcats. Now, it's no shame losing to the Perth Wildcats, but they did come out and tell us that they were the best team in the league. And the best team in the league, Damon, you would hope, would beat the Wildcats right now.
Look, that's always a tough road trip. To go to Perth and try to come out with the dub, they had their chances. I like the fact that they played good winning basketball. They just went down the stretch. A couple shots didn't go their way and some Perth brilliance. That's called basketball. You're not going to win every one of those games. There's a way to lose, and I felt like the Phoenix lost in a proper fashion. A loss that wouldn't make me doubt their ability to still go ahead with the job. So I was okay with it. The way they bounced back at home, that was even more important. So now I'm still okay with the Phoenix.
I'm really high on what they can achieve. I think that what's hurt them under Josh King, we talk about how well they've played, is they get in situations where they should be closing out games. They play really well for a period. They should go on with it. They let teams kind of get back in. We saw what happened against Adelaide as well when Adelaide went on a big run. They've got talent there. Nathan Sobey's been great. Who I'm really impressed with is Owen Foxwell. Signed the extension to come back, and what he's been able to do, not just score the ball, he's picking up defensively, had a couple of errors in that Perth game where for a young guy, normally they would maybe go back into their shell, but he came out and made big shots in that Adelaide game in the fourth quarter. So credit to him, and he, as Josh King said earlier in the season at a press conference, he is a Josh King kind of player, and he is thriving under him, and it's great to see.
He's that good of a player and that poised that the loss of Derek Walton Jr., the loss of a player of that calibre, would have ended the hopes of a vast majority of teams in this league if you were to take a guy like that out. He's plugged that gap perfectly.
Great backcourt depth, and he plugged it also with Ben Air. Ben Air came on and played some great minutes. He can score. My man Angus Glover, he can come on there and just kind of steady the ship. Matt Kenyon's getting more playing time on the defensive end. So look, the Phoenix are, yes, their weakness is they can blow some leads. They can do that. But I think their biggest weakness, and you spoke to him on the podcast, Jordy Hunter. When Jordy Hunter is involved, this man is a double-double. But sometimes they forget about him. And when he's not producing, then he finds himself in foul trouble or not playing a lot of minutes. And now you got to rely on Matt Hurt solely at the 5. That's not where their strengths lie. As long as they include Jordy Hunter, I think they'll be fine.
And that's where I look at right now when you look at like the top 6 teams and you're breaking down who has a really good chance of winning a title. What's everybody's biggest weakness? It is that the ability to play with a lead or to really close out games, but also their front court depth as well, behind Jordy Hunter. If he gets in foul trouble or whatever they do there, the talent there across the board. You look at it, you sit here, do they have enough to win a title?
Yep.
Absolutely they do. If they get Derek Walton Jr. back at some point in the finals, that's a bonus. But with what they have now, with the way that Glover, Foxwell's stepping up, Wieskamp's been unbelievable, absolutely they've got a chance.
They get themselves to a 3-game series, and it is tough to see a team beating them on form. Outside of the Illawarra Hawks, they're probably one of those teams where you look across a 3-game series, they are dangerous.
They play well against Illawarra, though,
twice
this season as well. So, again, you go through all of that. And I mentioned Joe Wieskamp. What a block it was, a game-saving block. He's a sneaky athlete. He's a very sneaky athlete.
Forget how many games this guy played in the NBA. He hasn't quite had the season he probably wanted here, but he's played some heavy minutes in the NBA and plenty of games.
And you give him props because he went on their podcast to talk about how he got benched.
Propaganda.
Josh King, and he went in there and said, for a lot of imports, when you get benched, They look, okay, it's a new look, and you can go into your shell, and it can be hard to get out of. We see it throughout the whole year, but he came out and said, you know what, I took it as, I know I need to be better. Like, this is not how I play. I understood he come in here for his shooting. He wasn't shooting the ball well. And now he's transformed into the player they thought they were going to get at the start. And no surprises, this is what the Phoenix are building towards at the back end of this season.
The difference between finishing second and fourth in this league is so tight. And the Phoenix have had some costly losses throughout the year, which if you just wanted to have back, you look at these. Look, lost by 1, lost by 2, lost by 2, lost by 12 to teams that, you know, both those Brisbane games really should have been wins for them.
You go through a whole season, you know it's going to happen. You're going to lose games you should win, and there's going to be some wins that you should have lost. It kind of evens out in the end. I like what Scott Ross says, that you will be where you will be at the end of this regular season. There's no magic formulas, magic tricks to it. You get exactly what you deserve. Now you've positioned yourself with the one game to go. The throwdown is going to be huge. If you can climb up maybe one more extra spot, it can help. But as long as they're playing playoff winning basketball, it doesn't matter where you play because they've all proven they can beat everybody.
Now, before we get to this next segment, I want to preface it by saying that I love the interaction that we've seen this year from owners. Mark Arena's done a great job. Romy from the Southeast Melbourne Phoenix, he's done a fantastic job as well, even if sometimes a little bit controversial. Paul Smith back in the day was fantastic. It's a unique part of our sport and we want it. But sometimes with that, you can cross the line. And Romy certainly did that when he tweeted out in reference to a ref. Now, this original tweet included a photo. We're not going to include that photo because we're not going to single out this official who's a fantastic official and doesn't deserve that. But good to know I'm not the only one who feels this way. You're talking about this guy with the photo attached, definite front runner for worst ref ever by a mile. Refs aren't going to get every call right, and that is totally understandable, but this guy's exceptionally bad. Turd emoji. That's just not acceptable at all.
Yeah, I'm with you on the fact that I don't mind. This is the age of social media. You can go on there and voice your opinion. You can be frustrated with referees in general, but we're not here to single people out. Regardless of your feelings towards it, you do not single out an official. You don't single. I know he likes to single out a couple of players as well, so it's not been the first time. But singling people out, it's just not a good look.
It's not really the Australian way, is it? I mean, you know, Romy's coming from the States, coming from New York, where everybody kind of got a little bit more extra to say. So look, he reeled it back, but he still left kind of the bones of that tweet. And you know what? Even if you've got supporters and believe that that is actual true for you, guess what? So what, man? So what? He ain't going nowhere. Deal with it.
On the referees as a whole, though, we understand the frustration. Again, when you're in a heat of battle with the emotions straight after, but without referees, we don't have a game of basketball.
That's where the singling out goes to me. Because players, commentators, I'm fair game. If you don't like what I'm saying, tweet out, I hate this guy, I can't stand this guy. But there is a point where you've got to protect officials. You can tweet it right now on your phone there. You can. It's just not. It's not appropriate and it's not within the game. You've got people coming up trying to be officials, and I thought that was so out of line. But credit to Romy, he did delete the tweet and changed it up. So it's as much as you can ask for in that situation.
Before we move on, you're spot on there where, yes, understand there's plenty of times both players, coaches, us as broadcasters, media people, referees, we can get plenty of things wrong. But in terms of referees in particular, the ones coming through want to aspire to be there. Everyone who's looking up, we need more referees in the game of basketball to continue to grow this game. They're going to be putting in the work. Is it where we want to be? No. Are we on the right track? Yes. And we've got to be behind them. Otherwise, we don't have a sport, man.
100%.
I'm with the refs. And hey, any future refs, anybody aspiring to be a ref, and you see somebody tweet out something like that, ignore it. Just take it for what it is. He's not the gospel. He doesn't speak for everybody, so keep it moving.
The standards you set, and Romy is the top of this club, and it's certainly not a Southeast Melbourne standard that we've seen it throughout. But the tweet was deleted, and we move on because United, well, they managed to get it done against who is the Kings of John Cain Arena in the Tassie Jack Jumpers. Now, although they were depleted, Tassie comes into this arena with just some inhuman amount of confidence. And they again managed to take them potentially. Didn't exactly take them all the way there, but Melbourne United scraped this one out. And you've got to say that a win's a win.
In the first 3 quarters, Tassie were the better team. They get a different thing of confidence when they step on this floor. I don't know whether it's the road trip in general. It was a really poor fourth quarter execution-wise. Even here, not getting a shot up. A couple of other possessions where they turned it over. They allowed some easy shots, some miscommunication defensively. It was a really bad executed fourth quarter. But for that first 3 quarters, everyone watching the game, we're sitting there thinking, here we go again. Something about it. Scott Roth just has them locked in Melbourne.
I thought it was just a great game of basketball. Somebody was going to be stiff to lose. Dean Vickerman and the United couldn't play any worse in that first half, and then they turned it around. So it's a game of runs. It went down to like the last possession. Okay, yep, they could have did something different to Jack Jumpers, but you know, this is basketball, man, and like you can't just have it your way all the time. That was actually the Kyle Bowen game, because Jack White did not have anything really to offer. He fouled out, couldn't get into a rhythm. Young Kyle Bowen stepped up, almost got himself a double-double, and the new version, the modern-day version of the human straitjacket, Shea Illy. Wow, what a defensive night he had.
He's next level, man. Next level. And again, offensively, we know he's great, especially in this game, 18, 7, 6, and 2. But you go back and just watch the individual efforts he does defensively that might not show up on a stat sheet. You talk about recency bias. Last weekend in particular, when we talk about Defensive Player of the Year, he's going to win it again. He's just in line to win it again. And we'll talk about our awards watches coming up. But all these possessions, the first one on the floor, as I've continued to state, take out Bryce Conn, take out Chris Goulding. If you surveyed a team and said you're going to battle and you need someone on a role player on your team to go with, everyone's taking Shea Illy. He's a winner. That's just what he does. He's just a winner defensively. He's no nonsense. He just picks himself up and goes 100 miles an hour. And he's been terrific.
This game's going to be the throwdown on Saturday night. South East Melbourne take on Melbourne United. That is going to be a massive one of monumental proportions because both of these teams still jostling. It looks like Melbourne United are going to hold on to that second spot.
They won't lose this probably the second spot, even if they drop that game, because you still got Perth and the Phoenix. Phoenix can probably get the third. Now, what's Perth? Perth 17 and 11?
Perth can jump in. If Perth win.
Sorry, okay, yeah. Perth go beat Adelaide. They'll beat them. They'll be 18 and 11. Now, can the Phoenix get to 18 wins? Phoenix is 16 and 12. They can only get to 17. So my point is this. The United, I feel, let's just say they stay second. Those top four teams can legitimately beat everybody, and like you get a bye. Okay, 1 and 2, you might not play for a month. It could take a while. All the rhythm that you built over 29 games, you could now struggle to keep that momentum going. You got to figure out a way to kind of regenerate it.
You speak about momentum. Before we cut to the break, if you finish first or second, you've got the play-in, then you've got the fever break. That is a lot of time on the pine. Do any of these coaches want that for their team heading into the finals?
If you're a little bit banged up, Melbourne United, Jack White's back, maybe. But you're right, it's a long time to not play games. It can be a disadvantage.
Certainly.
I'm still taking the minor premiership, top 2 if I can get it.
Certainly, you'll take it. Take what you can get. We're going to be going to a break coming up right next.
Eventually access Goulding, and he stands up, and he delivers on cue. 29 seconds left. Tasmania need a score, and they need it quick. Doyle step back for 3. Got it! Milton Doyle! Monstrous 3! Here comes Cotton again. He'll stop. Prop.
Thank you to Mitsubishi Motors for allowing our players to shoot threes this year. Chris Goulding at 90. Now, I'd like to say that Bryce Cotton has a chance of catching him with 9 in this final round, but it's a throwdown. And we know that Chris Goulding, for some reason, just loves to play in these throwdowns. You have to say that he's going to roll through this one and be the leading threes at the end of the year, which kind of sums up his year. The fountain of youth has been found, and he's just continued to roll. But Melbourne United, will they need some more threes around him to be able to compete for this championship? But if we talk competing for a championship, Damon, I will allow you to take the floor here. The Illawarra Hawks, with 1 round to go. You said it at the start of the year. We laughed at you. We teased. I think we even spoke behind your back at one point and said, Damon, we can't have him on TV making these sort of opinions. But you appear to be right. They are the number 1 seed heading into the finals.
They're the number 1 seed, and they deserve to be. All year, they've had the formula. They brought back 90% of their team, which we've spoken about ad nauseum. They go out and they produce. They play for each other. A very mature brand of basketball. No wild cowboys in that team just trying to come down and make it all about themselves. If they were to do that from time to time, Justin Tatum's leadership is so strong, he knocks that on the head. They are primed. They're right where they want to be. 2 games ago, they got New Zealand, as long as they don't have a hiccup, because they can't, they've shown that they can get relaxed. They've shown that. But they're smart enough and mature enough to know, nah, not again. Then they finish off the season with the Sydney Kings, which, as we all know, it means something. So you want to go into your finals having beat the Kings every single time you played them. So look, I feel like the championship is going to go through the gong.
It's going to be fascinating. And they deserve to finish top. The first time they would have finished top in their history, which would be awesome to see. And you talk about every piece, and I love that we spoke to Justin Tatum in the pre-game before their Tasmania win, when they put them to the sword. I asked him about the bench unit and what's practices like. And he looked down the barrel and laughed and said, they beat up on the starters. And you could see it. Well, the way we see it in games when they come in and with energy and the way they execute, Albrick, Hickey, Lee, Days when he's healthy. Todd Blanchfield looks great down this stretch. So everybody just does their thing. Everybody knows their role. And I'm asking about weaknesses around teams. You mentioned their weakness of playing down to the level. They're not going to have to worry about that in the finals. Anyone in the top 6 is the best team in the competition. So what could their weakness be if they don't get the job done? Because right now I look at it, with all the pieces there, the way they've played against the top teams, you're right, it's going to go through the gong.
Whoever wins this championship this season is going to thoroughly deserve it. Now, look, the Hawks can lose. They've already proven they can lose to the Southeast Melbourne Phoenix. Melbourne United didn't play some. They have some knockout, drag-out fights, even though they spanked them the last time. Adelaide, I don't think will be there. Come Final Four time, semi-final time. But it's just going to come down to who can execute on the day. Once you get all the best teams in, now it's just about, okay, like, can we still maintain what we were doing now? They don't have a flaw, I feel. I don't feel like they're going to be over-rattled by the moment because they had a knockdown, drag-out semifinal series last year, 2 overtime games. They've been on the road. I feel like they battle-hardened. Now, they got to execute on the day, like I say, but every team has to do that.
Is Froling the sort of forgotten guy? Every time we talk about the Illawarra Hawks, I hear Trey Kell, Tyler Harvey. We're even talking Todd Blanchfield now before we bring up the name of Sam Froling. Another fantastic, efficient night. Now, we talk about how Tyler Harvey hasn't played outside of himself this year. Sam Froling's done exactly that and sacrificed certain parts of his game because he knows they're a perimeter-orientated offense.
They are, but they score more in the paint. Like, that's the way that they've got Trey Kell. I think they become a facade in terms of the perimeter game because they're leading the points in the paint throughout the league. And a lot of that is Sam Froling, Days when he's there, Albrick. He's their X factor. So winning a championship, they need to make sure they make him that focal point early in games, often, especially there's certain matchups that he loves playing within that top 6 if they get it, to continue to feed the big fella, because this is the most confidence I've seen him play with in a very long time.
And they do that. Justin Tatum is an inside-outside guy. Sam would draw a double team. If you leave him down there one-on-one, Sam, out of his own mouth, he said, I feel like I'm the strongest big in the league. He's going to bully you. And he was in full bully mode last game. So if they now sag off of him, now you got shooters all over the place. They get it. Now, let's just say they go away from Sam, because sometimes they might go 3 to 5 minute stretch where they forget about Sam. Guess what? Justin Tatum will remind them. They got the formula. They don't need to reinvent the wheel. And I'm going to apologize in advance. I'm going to apologize in advance. If you guys make the grand final series, championship series, and I'm in the country, I'm making a fool of myself at the championship parade. I'm just going to apologize right now.
I have seen you cracking open champagne bottles after a run.
It's going to get messy. If they do this again, it's going to get messy.
Runs around the block and cracks a champagne bottle. God knows what you do if your Hawkies get the job done. I've seen those ones on social media. This could be the last time we mention Brisbane in this season series of shows because their season is all over. But the highlight for them, and they've edged us during the year. They have teased us throughout the year. I know you love that term. They've teased us with some great basketball. But alas, it's not to be in the finals.
No.
Casey Prather has been the talking point for this, and hopefully for their sake they can get his signature at the end of the year. But, you know, we're talking a guy that at the start of the year we were saying, why did they sign this injured dude? Now we're talking all NBL.
I'm talking most improved.
Oh, really?
Everybody's talking Taron Armstrong, and deservedly so. But if Casey Prather can be mentioned for a first-team All-NBL, how come he can't be mentioned for most improved?
Because he's one of the best players in the league at Perth and Melbourne.
But how was his season last year? Like you just said,
he
barely could walk.
Yeah, but I could roll my ankle first game of the year, and then I get my Bryce Button.
I'm just saying.
No, I get your logic, but I'll throw it.
Take my point.
There's been some very interesting nominations for most improved because of a little dip in a career for injuries or whatever it is, and then bouncing back. But you look at this: has he done enough All-NBL first team? And history would say if you finish outside the top 6 that you can't beat it. He's 3rd in the league for scoring. He only plays 30 minutes a game. I know they're not going to be in the top 6, and you look at the last 5 years.
Well, let's have a look at who's made it outside of the top 6 in the past. Oh, there we go. There's a lot of text on there for you, so maybe get your phone out.
So that's the last 5 years. No one.
No one has made it from outside the top 6 in the past 5 seasons of all NBL teams.
I understand I'm contradicting myself here because I talk about how much history and stats play a part, and they will. That's going to change. That man is an all-NBL first teamer. He's third in the league in scoring. He's done it on a team that's been decimated by injuries this back half of the season. He did it again, severely hampered by injuries in Adelaide. He stepped up again. I know no one's done it in 5 years. If that man's not all-NBL first team, I know it's going to be a close race. There's a lot of deserving talent. He needs to be in there, and I think his peers will reward him with that.
History means nothing because it gets broken all the time. But I think he's going to be a victim. Now, I believe he's playing like an all-NBL first-team player, but I think he'll be a victim of the positionless way that we go about things.
We've got our all-NBL
If we went, and
teams
we'll chat to them later, but if we were going positionally, I think he makes it in. But unfortunately, I think you move Matt Hurt over to the 5 and potentially he makes it in there. But I think it's going to be tough without that.
Look, there's no wrong answers here. It is that much talent in the league. You can make an argument for about 12 guys to be all NBL first team. It's all going to come down to what do you value?
Yeah.
What is it, Pete, that you covet?
I've said this a lot.
You've already said, you've made your case. You made your point. And like I said, it's going to be, no, I'm just saying. It was a rhetorical question.
Was that a Gollum impersonation?
Yeah, it was a little bit.
A bit of Lord of the Rings going on there.
They're the same size.
That was another reference. You missed it.
He's come at my hairline, your height.
No, I went with some Hannibal Lecter on that one.
Yeah, well, there we go. Well, anyway, Damon, let's continue the show between us. Tasmania, their season's all but finished. Yeah. But what do they have to do between now? Look, injuries decimated their year. That's the be-all and end-all is injuries cost them, and Jack McVeigh leaving at the death cost them. What do they have to do between now and round 1 of next year to get themselves back on track?
You got to get a stud import at the 4-5 position. Because Will Magnay, love him, can't play a full season. He's almost the Anthony Davis of the NBL, although Anthony Davis played a lot of games last year. Take that back. Forget that.
Magnay did play a lot of games last year, so it works.
You know what? Forget what I just said about Anthony Davis and Will. But I still want an import 4-5 just for insurance. Because he tends to get hurt the wrong times. Even last year, right before the semifinal series, he's limping around the championship series. So I got to get that third import locked in. Now, he's got some decisions to make with the backcourt. I think he can run that same backcourt back. Milton Doyle is a jack jumper. He's a jack jumper. You just have to live with the fact that he might score 2 in one quarter, 12 in the next. He's a jack jumper. He affects the game a whole lot of ways. I'm bringing back Jordan Crawford because he's impact off the bench. Every team needs a third guard. Start Shawnee Mack, fine. Those other, Majuk Deng, no problem. But you got to get that third import spot. And Liam, Santa Maria, throw me one of them next stars. Throw me one of them dudes.
Give me one of those. I'm huge on retention. Yeah. And I reckon Jordan Crawford, Milton Doyle, for as much as he cops throughout the media for having these real off games and then real big games, if you can find a pay packet that is enough to reflect that and still keep him, you keep him for sure, because retention is more important than anything. Jordan Crawford is a hooper. Milton Doyle is a hooper. Champions. You keep building on that. They're champions. You just got to keep building on that and they'll be back to success.
I'm really big on what you said is let's just find that 4-man who can also slide down to the Matt Hurt type, where you can play the backup 5 for however long you need. He's a bucket getter. Really nail that, and then you can have the conversations about the other two. Milton Doyle's part of the furniture there, man. I can't see him going anywhere else.
Well, the recent champions in the NBL, I believe the last 7 or 8, you look at this. Unfortunately, the next season, the Jackies, now it's injury-induced, but they've just dropped. They've bucked the trend. As someone who does the Trend is My Friend segment, I always like to look at trends, and this one just sticks out like a pair of dog's knackers.
Well, they won 8 straight, and at one point when they had Sean McDonald back, they had Will Magnay back, they looked like they were making a charge once again because they were poor early on, but you're right, injuries, big asterisk next to it this year.
Big asterisk. We'll tell you what, we're heading for a big break, and we're going to be back with a whole bunch of big news afterwards. Welcome back to NBL Overtime. Awards season is right around the corner, Monday night to be exact. And of course, you can catch that live from 7:30 p.m. on KO and the NBL website. But let's jump into where we're playing for our selections. And sometimes I've had some howlers on these in the past because, when I'm left to my own devices, sometimes I can't be trusted. So let's throw mine up to begin with. The MVP, barring a Kendrick Davis 70 ball, it's going to be Bryce Cotton right there. All NBL. I'm going positionless to the extreme here. It's a guards league. The bids have not impressed me this year outside of Matt Hurt. Adams, Cotton, Davis, Harvey. Run Kendrick Davis at the 4. I don't care. Run him at the 5. That's my all-NBL team. 6-man, Quatnoy, and the depoy.
He's barely played.
I'm going Paul Qual.
He's been injured a lot of the season, Paul Qual.
Yeah. I just took it a little different angle because I knew you were all going Shea Ili, and I didn't want all of us having the three same.
It's going to come down to Shea Ili or Wani Swakala-Bullock. You could have gone with Wani.
I just went with Bullock.
I don't mind a lot of those. I've got some similar names in the first team, but no surprise here. I've got Casey Prather in there. I've got Tyler Harvey as well.
Yeah,
I think Tyler Harvey might...
You've got to have a player from Illawarra.
Correct. I think you've got to give the best team in the competition some flavour. Harvey or Kell, one of the others, one will fall into the second team. Quiet Noise a lock. And I've got Shea Ili right now. I think it'll come down between him and Wani Swakala-Bullock. But what he did last week in particular, that's going to... And don't forget, he played very few games a couple of seasons ago and was a top 3 finalist. That just shows how well he's highly regarded amongst his peers. Everyone in the league believes he's the best defender. It'll be him or Wani.
There's no wrong answers here.
Oh, no, there is. There's some.
Everybody's got a case. This is all about personal preference. And what is it that you covet? MVP Bryce Cotton, All-NBL team. Tyler, to quote the Navy SEALs, damn it, it pays to be a winner. You ain't getting them an All-NBL first team if you ain't winning. Simple as that. I covet winning. Winning. That's it. It is non-negotiable. All my top 5, Xavier Cooks, top 5. He's 5th. Bryce Cotton, Tyler Harvey. Say what you want. Chris Golden at my 2 guard, because you got to go back in history and find somebody who don't play basketball no more to actually shoot better than what he's doing right now. And Matt Hurt. Sorry. Argue with my top 5.
We're throwing around quotes. To quote Roadside Patrol, have you had anything to drink tonight, sir? Because that is my man
You've got to have
Kendrick.
Kendrick Davis in there.
Kendrick Davis's team
It's a not
is
that one.
2 games below 500. Why do I want you? You can't get your team to play 50-50 ball.
I'm with you that Chris Golding might find his way in there as well and would be well deserving.
I got to kick out a winner to put the dude whose team can't win 500 in?
What?
Hell no.
He's going to be the runner-up MVP. He doesn't make the All-NBL first team?
Personal preference.
Oh, geez, I just want to, while we're throwing out crazy ones, obviously, Bullock, I threw that in just to throw you boys off. I do think Shea Ili is going to be the defensive player.
No, you didn't. No.
This is now your time to apologise for throwing out a joke one
I'm not apologizing for winners. Winners.
You know what? We've made fun of Damon for that many predictions that
All
have
the
turned out
time.
to be correct. So I'm just going to go ahead and say that there could be a real sidewinder in this.
Hey, he had a
one.
great
Kendrick doesn't
statistical season. Kendrick had a great...
There is no world Kendrick Davis doesn't make the first team.
Hey.
Unless Damon...
Where would you walk if he doesn't make it?
I will... I refuse to say anything on air. I'm smarter than that.
Hey, let's regain composure. Damon, you've made some bold predictions. A lot of them come off, so we've got to give you credit there. It's time for The Trend is Your Friend. I swear that ball is dribbling for an extra bounce every time this stinger plays. So we'll roll it anyway. The final round for the Wooden Spooners. Now, the Cairns Taipans have been world beaters as they approach the end of the year, but I can't help but think, and history backs me up when I say this, the bottom place team on the ladder, which is going to be the Cairns Taipans, they are locked and loaded in last place. They don't perform in the final round. They do not perform at all. You look at this. All the way back to the COVID years. Illawarra. Oh boy, have things changed since then. Teams in the final round. Now, I don't know whether they've got their flights booked, what it is, and the Taipans, well, they just said to Rob Edwards, you know what? Sorry, fans, he's not playing for the final 2 rounds. I just get the feeling that the Cairns Taipans are going to struggle this weekend. And they've got the Bullets and the JJs who may be coming up as value against them.
But at least they got 50 grand.
That is true. That's a very good point.
To ease their pain.
I think they're going to come out... Again, you got some guys playing for contracts, you've got all of that, but you're right, they're coming up against the Brisbane Bullets team that wants to end the season on a high. And Tassie, a sellout crowd in Tassie, the last home game for them, which could also be, if Adelaide dropped that Perth game significantly, Tassie, it would have to be a massive margin. Crazy things happen in the NBL, but both teams they're playing against will want to get a win.
You have shown a complete and utter disdain for history throughout this program today.
I just agreed with what you're saying.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, proof he doesn't listen.
No, I don't at all.
I
thought you were going
appreciate
against
you.
it.
I appreciate your listening. Okay.
Yeah, you came out and said they were getting wins. The more I think about it, the more I realise that maybe he was correct. But anyway, we'll be back along with Pete Hooley's Hairline.
What are you really gambling with? For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.
After what feels like it's been a monumentally long season, round 20 is finally upon us. The top 6 appears totally locked in, albeit an absolute miracle happening to move Adelaide out of the top 6, but we just don't think that's going to happen. Damon, Pete, what do you like seeing here on page 2?
I know what you're looking forward to, Damon. Illawarra versus Sydney. Hopefully, I mean, if Illawarra beat New Zealand, which they should on Wednesday, that game doesn't mean too much for the Hawks, except for pride, which will play a part. Perth and Adelaide. It's all about Perth and Adelaide. That's going to set up what we see in the throwdown and have the big ramifications.
Throwdown for mine. Obviously, the freeway series is extremely lively, but I can't wait to see, because Melbourne United have not beat Southeast Melbourne Phoenix when Sam McKinnon was coaching them, haven't beat them when Josh Knight's been coaching. Josh King's been coaching them.
Never won 3 straight throwdowns going for a chance to do.
That's what I want to see.
Both of these teams want that win heading into the finals as well, but it's time for who is under pressure throughout the league and throughout the general basketball world, and maybe, just maybe, we'll venture into entertainment as well. But of course, number 5 on this list.
Your hell.
Kendrick. Well, it was nice having Peter. He'll be removed from the set for the following programs. Leonard Copeland, you're back in. Number 5, Kendrick Davis.
All the social media activity, lock in, get the win, get to 6th spot, and then give your fans at least 2 more home games, I think.
You don't want to come out and perform poorly after those sort of tweets.
Look, talent's only going to get you so far. I feel like we already know what he can do as an individual. Can you get your team to win? And those 9,000 fans that turn up every single week at Adelaide Entertainment Centre to see you ball out, you got to give them something.
Number 4, Jack White's back.
It's a concern. I mean, you spoke about his struggles in the game on the weekend. We know he was a game-time decision. We've seen, at their best, Jack White is producing aggressive basketball on the offensive end. They need to look after. They need to give him 2 weeks rest.
I'm almost certain you just said basketball, but Mark Arena as number 3 on that list. He's come out and he's talked a big game. You better find a challenge stadium and better pack out this crowd and do the members right across this one.
How about, Mark, you just book out a restaurant, a pub, a sports bar, and just let a whole bunch of people in and you pay for it?
There's a big screen outside Optus Stadium.
They'll find a way. Mark Arena is a man of the people who'll find a way. Number 2, Kylie Minogue. You better put on a show of a lifetime if you're going to lock out those West Australians for a game.
Yeah, there's a lot of pressure. She will do that. I'm sure she will do that.
And finally, the one I've been waiting. I wanted to do this off the top, but they said no, we're an NBL show. Nico Harrison, the GM of the Dallas Mavericks, trading the future of the franchise away for Anthony Plastic Davis.
I liked it.
What happened?
I didn't mind it.
I actually don't mind this trade.
I didn't mind it.
But you're trading the future for the now, which is always a dangerous game. But I do overall respect it.
Hey, look, we all know what Luka is, but you know what? He's also, a beer drinking, kind of lazy, doesn't want to play defense. He's out of shape.
He's like my type of guy.
You could easily just run it with Kyrie, and then I feel like it was an upgrade.
It makes Dallas better in the short term, long term. He's 25, man, one of the best we've ever seen. I don't like it. I don't like it.
5 years old, in his prime, an unbelievable move. Do we bring trades to the NBL? I don't think so. I don't think they're paid enough to be shipped around the country like cattle, like they are in the NBL. Enjoy the final round.